us who have to contend with Romans 1 thrown at us as a reason to deny us civil rights, to deny our ordination in the church, to deny, is that the people who use it have clearly not done the depth of exegesis on Romans 2 that they've done on Romans 1. They found the piece that they liked, that made them feel comfortable in their tradition and what they already believed, and they've rested on that, but they haven't gone on to get the real point of Paul's letter to the Roman church, which was that in our new responsible freedom, we could look at every topic in a spirit of real community, first with the sovereign God and then with our neighbors, and we could find what was true and lasting and just together around every topic. And so, no, we wouldn't have to be thrown off to those old dichotomous cultures, dichotomous labels of good and evil, like that long laundry list of all those things that, and so were some of you, says he. We can think together in peace and in the beloved community about how to live together in peace, trusting that Holy Spirit will continue to communicate with us, whether it be through study. I love the old line from the rabbis, in the eyes of the Holy One, blessed be He, an hour of study is as an hour of prayer. Or through the telling of stories. No matter how you get your information, and we all get it differently. You know, some people watch the TV and get it visually. Other people can hear a song and the lyric will be the thing that moves them. You know this from worship planning. You don't just do one sort of message development in worship planning. But whatever the medium, we need constantly to be talking about people from a pastoral perspective. And this is, I think, the place where our movement now has come, where the organizers of LGBT land, as I like to call us, have finally regained our vocabulary around faith. We can say to each other, look, don't give that language over to other people to use. Use it, because there are frames there that allow us into the conversation in ways that simply answering the clever texts don't do. So, you know, I want to talk about community. I love Sodom and Gomorrah story, because it's all about what to do with the person that you don't understand. It's the whole point of the story. I wish all of you would go home and preach on Genesis 19, but I want you to preach on Judges 19 with it, you know, where the same story is retold from a heterosexual standpoint. You remember the two stories? The householder in Gibeah is visited by strangers from out of town, and the men of the city come to the householder's door and demand that he give those people out to them so that they can humiliate them in the worst way they can think of to do. Right? We're going to make them act like women again soon. And the householder says the same thing that Lot said in Sodom. I cannot do that. Everything about our tradition demands that I refuse your request. What about my daughters? Would you take my daughter instead? I preach a sermon on the clever texts that is called Reading the Bible with Trembling Hands. And I ask women about that point in the sermon, are you shaken yet? Right? And in Gibeah, the men accept the daughter as a substitute, and they rape her until she dies, and they throw her body up on the steps. And the householder divides her into 12 pieces and sends one piece to each of the 12 tribes of Israel. And those tribes mount up armies that converge on Gibeah and wipe it off the map as clearly as Sodom and Gomorrah are wiped off the map today. And nobody says the sin of Gibeah is homosexuality or heterosexuality. Nobody ever goes there, right? But once we've really talked in real terms with people in ways that let them know that we too value the texts, then we have established ourselves as not, if not authoritative, at least on par with them. And we let them know that we are listening as well as talking. And we want to know now, what have you got? What else from your study of the text takes you, in a different direction? And we can stay in dialogue. What we cannot do, we LGBT activists, is say, well, this is a church-state issue, so you can't talk about that, or the church has been used to hurt me, the Bible's been used to hurt me, so I don't want to talk about that. We don't have that luxury. We simply don't. And in fact, if we do that, we're giving away all of these other rich metaphors for having the conversation that are about bringing people together in community.
Tony, I was wondering if when you talked about the young people being welcoming but not affirming, I guess how do you love someone and not be able to affirm them?
I didn't say they were loving. I said they were welcoming.
Yeah.
Their feelings are still somewhat hostile. I'm being honest with you. Their feelings are somewhat hostile. They just see the hypocrisy of saying you're a follower of Jesus and shutting anybody out of the fellowship. They see the hypocrisy. That doesn't mean they're loving. It just means that they say, you can come and you can be part of our fellowship. We have a long way to go in moving beyond that. Let me just say, in response to your question, that there is an overwhelming awareness among young people that discrimination against gays, lesbians, transsexual people, and bisexual people is wrong. They know that discrimination is wrong. The African American community had better start dealing with this because they refuse to see this as a civil rights issue. Black churches have become a problem. Proposition 8 would have never passed in California if it wasn't for black preachers. They got everybody riled up because they said this is not a civil rights issue. Young people, for the most part, are saying, yes, it is a civil rights issue. I love my students who say, well, if it's not a civil rights issue, it's simple. This country was founded on the principle that there should be no taxation without representation. If gays are kept out of the military, kept out of certain jobs, certain opportunities, if there's discrimination and they're still paying their taxes, that's taxation without representation. If you want to discriminate, tell the gay community you don't have to pay taxes anymore. And they always say, you'll have the biggest coming out party you've ever seen. As a matter of fact, one of my students said, I'm not gay, but I'll pretend. I'm gay, I'm gay. That's a real issue. They see the hypocrisy of saying, we're all Americans, we have to pay our taxes. Nobody who is paying his taxes or her taxes has a right, ought to be discriminated for any reason whatsoever. Incidentally, many of us look for some kind of mediating position between the people on one side and people on the other. And one mediating position that is picking up momentum, particularly out in California right now, is one of the happy things that I can say is I proposed it a while back. And that is that we should not, in fact, give governmental legitimation to gay marriage. And we shouldn't give governmental legitimation to heterosexual marriage.